All right, good morning, everyone. I hereby convene the September 23rd, 2024 hearing of the Santa Barbara County Zoning Administrator. My name is Linda Liu, and I'll be the zoning administrator for today's hearing, and Mr. Jonathan Martin will be clerking. The hearing will be conducted under the provisions of the Ralph M. Brown Act, open meeting law, as well as the provisions of California planning law and the Santa Barbara County Code. We just have the one item on today's agenda. The clerk will read the item into the record and I will announce any ex parte communications. I will then get comments from the case planner, followed by the applicant or the applicant's agent, and then I will get comments from the public. Anyone who wishes to testify should submit a speaker slip, or if testifying remotely, use the raise hand feature. And when testifying, please state your name and affiliation when it's your turn to speak. All right, the first portion of our agenda is for general public comment. This period gives the public an opportunity to comment on matters that are not on today's agenda. Mr. Martin, do we have any requests to speak?
Madam Chair, we have received no requests to speak for anything not on today's agenda.
All right, then we are ready to begin the standard agenda.
Okay, starting with item 1, 23 CDH-00034, hearing on the request of Seth Shank, agent for Santa Barbara County Public Works Flood Control, to consider the following. Consider this, consider case number 23 CDH-00034, and to consider the state California Environmental Quality Act guidelines sections 15168 C4 and 15183.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin. I do not have any ex parte communications to announce. Mr. Schmuckel, you ready to proceed?
Good morning, Ms. Liu. I am.
All right.
So my name is Chris Schmuckel. I'm the planner for the case. The projects are requests for a CDP for debris and siltation removal and biological restoration within the Santa Maria River corridor. This is the follow-on permit for the emergency permit 23 EMP 15 that was approved November 3rd, 2023. Sediment buildup following the winter storms from last year caused the river to realign and erode beyond the southern bank between State Route 1 and the Pacific Ocean near the city of Guadalupe. And the approved emergency permit allowed for this work to occur within the area to prevent floodwaters from impacting nearby public infrastructure and private property. So this permit will include the work that was described in the emergency permit while also restoring 7 acres, while also permitting the restoration of 7 acres of arroyo willow habitat and 7 acres of mixed shrub habitat to compensate for the vegetation that was impacted. The staff conducted an environmental review for this project and believes that the final environmental impact report for the routine maintenance program, PEIR, that was adopted by the Board of Supervisors in 2001 is adequate for the project and is consistent with CEQA guideline section 15168C4, the PEIR checklist, and 15162A, finding that a previous environmental document can be used. The annual maintenance program, PEIR, includes various desilting, channel shaping, herbicide spraying, and restoration activities within streams and creeks throughout the county, including the Santa Maria River. The project's also consistent with the comprehensive plan, including the biological resource section and the water resources and flooding section. And while the project is located within the ESH, because it's within a stream corridor, it is a necessary project for the emergency work to occur within this area to protect the nearby public and private infrastructure, and the subsequent restoration should also occur within this area. The restoration work will reduce erosion, revegetate the impacted areas, and will allow the water to flow downstream. So staff recommends that the zoning administrator make the following findings specified in attachment A of the staff report, including the CEQA findings. Consider state CEQA guideline section 15168C4, 15162, and determine that all of the environmental impacts are within the scope of the project covered by the PEIR and that the PEIR is adequate and that no subsequent environmental review is required. And to approve the project 23 CDH 34 is subject to the conditions included in attachment B. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions, and Seth Shank and County Flood Control staff are also here if you have questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Schmuckel. Mr. Martin, do we have any requests to speak on this?
We have received no requests to speak on this item, and we have no letters on the record.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Shank, do you have anything to add to the presentation that Mr. Schmuckel presented?
I have no further comments or anything to add to the presentation.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Schmuckel, just a follow-up minor question for my clarification. The emergency permit that was approved back in November, that actually went to the board, did it? Right? Eventually?
Ms. Liu, yes. So the permit itself was approved, and then subsequent to the approval, a report went to the Board of Supervisors as an informational item. But I believe that the Board of Supervisors also approved the funding for the project as well through flood control staff, and maybe Seth can talk about that more.
Great.
Yeah, the emergency funding was approved by the board through the general fund, I believe, in order to conduct the emergency work, and that was where the funding for the restoration is coming from as well.
Did they provide any specific requirements for this project other than what's laid out in Mr. Schmuckel's staff report?
The board specifically?
Right.
No, these are, the restoration requirements come from our emergency permits that were received from state regulatory agencies. And so the funding is tied into that, which these requirements have to be met for our emergency permits.
Right. And then ongoing monitoring of this, I assume flood control does their own monitoring of these projects as per usual as other projects that come before me.
Yes, absolutely. We have a restoration plan, and we're having a five-year monitoring period as part of that. And we can provide those, we'll provide those reports to planning development when we submit those yearly to state and federal agencies as well.
Great. All right. I don't have any follow-up questions after that. Thank you, Mr. Schmuckel, for your staff report. Mr. Shank, thank you for being here, and flood control staff. I'll go ahead and close out the public hearing for this item and make the required findings for this project as specified in attachment A of the staff report, including the CEQA findings. And I do determine that the CEQA guideline 15168C4 and 15183 checklist for the flood control maintenance program is sufficient, and determine that the environmental impacts of the projects are within the scope of the project covered by the PEIR. And that I approve this project 23 CDH 00034, subject to the conditions of approval included as attachment B of the staff report. Thank you very much, Mr. Schmuckel, Mr. Shank, thank you. Mr. Martin, I believe that concludes our hearing for today.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.